So the next mayor also is going to have to navigate relationships with various authorities which have kind of gained control of different assets of the city and
Mhm,
infrastructure of the city. Think of like the Great Lakes Water Authority,
mhm.
which had to work with the city when a water main broke in Southwest and flooded a whole neighborhood, and
Yeah,
people were kind of like, "Whose responsibility is this? Wait, who you
right.
should?" So I don't know. Talk about how the next mayor has to navigate these authorities that kind of supersede some of their ability to do things, and
Yeah, I would say that they don't necessarily supersede the ability because they obviously have appointees on each of these authorities. When you look at Great Lakes Water Authority, obviously it was a takeover of the system. I know some people don't like to hear that, but that's what happened. The valuation of what the city is getting paid from GLEWA leaves a lot to be desired
Mm.
because I think it left tremendous shortfalls in the city in terms of its ability to improve its own infrastructure. But that being said, these are working partnerships. And the new mayor has to understand the ability to work in partnership with these organizations to make sure that the needs of our community, we are still the largest customer base in large extent in the city of Detroit
Mhm.
with GLEWA. What's the relationship with Detroit Economic Growth Corporation? Well, that is controlled by the mayor.
Yeah,
And make no mistake about it. Council may
he
have some
picks the whole
appointees. At the
board.
end of the day, they control that. So that's a relationship that people need to understand. He can impact to certain things. How do you work with the stadium authorities to ensure that the workers are being paid properly in those entities? Because a lot of people who work in these authorities don't necessarily make the types of wages that they should or to have a living wage. So they have to have the ability to maximize their understanding of where these things fit in. You got the Detroit Wayne Port Authority, which actually has the ability to do development in the city of Detroit. Where's the best time opportunity for that to be? You've got the Riverfront Conservancy. Maybe they should be taking more responsibility for the park system throughout the city of Detroit, since they get a huge funding from the private philanthropic community. Maybe that's a safe place for them to be. I think the mayor's got to figure out where these entities fit into his overarching philosophy. How can he use them to best move his agenda forward? Make sure that he puts the right people in place at these authorities to provide the level of oversight they need to do, and then hold them accountable.
Mhm.
That's his ability. That's his hold card. So there's no authority that impacts the city that he doesn't have the ability to impact. The people just have to understand this is what I need you to do when you're talking with Great Lakes Water Authority. They need to make sure that our basements aren't being flooded. And then when something happens, we get quick service.
To talk about another authority, the Land Bank Authority, I think
Yes, we got to talk about that.
there's a big question mark, I think, around the future of that entity. Several of the folks that are running for mayor want to basically bring those services back into the housing department and kind
Right.
of end the land bank. Not sure when exactly that would happen, but they see that as being maybe short or long term, the future of that. What do you make of
Well,
that?
I mean, it's all about how we manage the land that we have and the assets and resources that exist in the city. And to suggest that they don't have as much authority as they do, I think, quite frankly, is political speak.
Mm.
Because if it's impacting what's going on in the city of Detroit, you as a person at the table have the ability to impact what they do. So I don't buy necessarily that argument. There should be much more coordination and direction. Land needs to be freed up and given. I'm gonna say given to some people in the city of Detroit. If you live in the area and you've maintained your home and you've paid your taxes and there's vacant land, you should be able to get that land at no cost to yourself. Because you've lived there, you've invested in the community. So how do we make those processes work better for the people who need to be impacted by them? I think by law, I think that the land bank is set to sunset. There might be a sunset provision
Mm.
in the law on how they were supposed to operate. And if that sunset occurs, then they need to have a plan on how they're going to integrate. And what are they going to do differently? It doesn't make any sense to roll back in what's not working that it needs to work. Tell me what needs to work. Tell me how we need to do what we need to do so that we can free land up for the people who live in the city of Detroit. That's how you create generational wealth. Ownership of land, redevelopment of housing. There's a lot of different things that can be done. If people really have the foresight to force the issue on what it is that they really want to see. What do you really want to see from the land bank? What do you want to see from an entity that controls economic development in the city of Detroit? How is that going to look? How the process is going to be streamlined? And then who's going to make it happen? Because people want things to happen. At the end of the day, they want a government that works for them, that does what they need for it to do. If there's a vacant house on my street that needs to be taken down, it needs to happen. If it's a vacant house that can be redeveloped, if you got a plan to redevelop that, I'm all ears. How do we make it work for ourselves? People who are invested in our city, we need to take care of them first.